Hey, it's JK, and welcome to Fresh Leeds, the series where I talk about some games that have just come out instead of playing games that are over 10 years old over and over again. Today, I'm going to talk about Dragon's Dogma 2, which released on Friday 22nd for PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. I've actually been sponsored by Capcom to make this video and discuss my thoughts on the game, so massive thank you to them. In case you're unfamiliar with this series, you're probably thinking, wait, why does a dragon have a dog mother? Well, let me get you up to speed. Dragon's Dogma is a single-player, narrative-driven action RPG series that puts the onus on the player to choose their own experiences and how they progress. The first game came out back in 2012, and I have heard a lot about it in recent years. Since then, it's gained a pretty massive cult following, with fans clamoring for a sequel, and now it's finally here. I did play the first game, but it was many years ago, and to be honest, my memory's pretty foggy, so I'm excited to see what this new entry has to offer. I'm going to talk about my first few hours of play and give you my thoughts so far. We start off with a cutscene introducing us as a Sovereign, and then we have some kind of mental breakdown where a disembodied voice talks to us, kind of like my usual Saturdays. I'd have Sovereign a mile if this happened to me here though. We then flick to a prison cell for character creation. You can choose a base template for your character, or if you're feeling creative, make your own. Sadly, we couldn't get it to be that brighter green, which was a shame, but there's a great level of customization here, even down to your posture. There's just 4 classes, or vocations to start with: Fighter, Archer, Mage, and Thief. We went with Thief because the double knife style stole our hearts. You can actually unlock a few more classes or vocations as you go through the game. Worth noting that each vocation can only use the weapon type listed. Obviously the character is called Dogma, and you can choose a moniker. We got pretty excited when we saw Babs as an option, so we went with that instantly, but it turns out the moniker is just there if you put profanity in your character's name, so yeah, it never actually gets used. We first get control of our character in this excavation site, where our first task is to carry these stones from one place to the next, before some commotion gets the adventure really rocking and rolling. This creature has come down to let out some pent-up aggression on us, it seems. Combat is pretty cool in that, as well as attacking and dodging, you can actually throw nearby objects and even grip onto larger enemies like this one, climb up them and attack them and move around. After this, we ride a noble beast that I name Peter, and the title screen appears. No, Peter! But this conveniently leads us down to meet Justin, with 2 N's. After a brisk walk, gathering materials and killing some goblins, we can now access an important feature of the game, pawns. On your journey, you'll be joined by pawns, mysterious otherworldly beings. This is unique in that you feel as if you're being accompanied by other players while on your own adventure, which is kind of a fun twist on the usual RPG formula. You can customize your own main pawn, who will always accompany your character, the Arisen, and enter a covenant with up to 2 additional pawns created by other players through the network, adding a level of connection between you and other people playing the game. We made ours into a giant cat guy and gave him the voice of an 8-year-old boy.
There are more who can yet be saved.
We should have called him Queequeg though. Beyond the town borders, you'll encounter a number of monsters that inhabit the world, such as goblins, harpies, weird lizard creatures, or even larger monsters like this troll. You can decide between engaging in battles or finding alternatives. Now, remember how I said earlier your character can only use the weapon type assigned to their vocation? Well, this means it's crucial to hire more pawns with different abilities. Because we were the Thief class, for example, we don't have access to a bow or any range, at least at this point, so we need to go hire out a pawn with an archery vocation from the Riftstone here. So make sure you're aware of your party's setup, as well as the terrain around you and the monsters you're about to fight. I believe there are some later vocations you unlock that have a mix of close and long range, but for starting out, you're forced to rely on pawns for whichever combat style your character lacks. The combat initially can feel a bit like you're just relying on your pawns to do the damage, and you also don't have that many options for your own combat interactions until you start unlocking vocation skills with a bit of leveling up. There are some cool interactions you can do though, like climbing the monsters which I mentioned earlier, or even pulling them over when they're in a vulnerable position. You can also pick up and throw almost anybody, including your pawns, which I thought was pretty funny. As for the world, it looks great. You got lush landscapes, cities full of inhabitants ready to give you side quests galore, and so on. Really no complaints for this. It's worth noting a few aspects of this game which I think are going to be pretty polarizing though. Firstly, actually healing at an inn gets pretty pricey after the first time, Outside of potions you've made, this is one of the only consistent ways you get a proper heal, and 1500 gold is a lot of money right at the start of the game. Some might describe this pricing as inconsiderate. Another thing is the game has a weight load system that affects movement speed, but it's actually not just affected by items you have equipped, like armor and swords, it's also the items you're holding in your inventory as well. One example where this came into play in kind of a negative way was you can camp to restore health instead of resting at an inn. By the way, look at the incredible achievement name for camping for the first time. Intense. But upon picking up the modest camping kit, it pushed me all the way to heavy weight load from average weight load, meaning that my movement now was greatly slowed. Obviously want to have this camping kit on me as I can't camp without it, but at least now I can't hold it without running like I haven't touched grass in 8 years. You can drop off items in storage at an inn, but I'm a long way from that, so I've got to wait a while before I can actually drop this off and move at a normal speed again. This ties into something Dragon's Dogma 2 prides itself on. It's going for a certain level of realism that many RPGs don't go to, and this is both a good and a bad thing at times. Another example, if you pick up some fruit, you can have it in your inventory to eat to recover health, but if you don't use it right away, and some time passes, it can actually go bad, so you need to make sure to mix it into a potion, like this salubrious draught? Whatever, what a name. So the fruit actually behaves like real fruit would. If you don't eat it within a certain time, it goes rotten, and then you can't really eat it. This actually also applies to quests in a similar way. Some quests, which will have an hourglass symbol next to them in the quest menu, actually can be failed if you don't do them quickly enough. So if you happen to pick up a quest with this symbol, you probably need to drop whatever you're doing and go sort it out as soon as possible to avoid missing out on possible rewards. Again, I do really admire games that go for bold design choices like this, and on one hand, I guess this could stop players from just hoarding loads of uncompleted side quests. But given that side quests can be initiated just by going near an NPC, I can imagine this could be inconvenient at times if you're focused on doing something and then have to completely drop it because you want to make sure you do this quest right then and there to get the rewards. Another thing is fast travel. It's pretty limited in this game, at least from what I've seen so far. You can only travel between towns using this ox cart. The cart isn't always there, so you need to wait for it, which you can speed up by standing at this post, but it's another sort of small loading screen just to get it to come. Then, riding the ox cart itself isn't free. It costs money each time, plus you actually can get attacked by monsters which you need to fend off sometimes while traveling, so you might want to only consider this option in extenuating circumstances, because this travel is anything but fast. Again, it is realistic because, this is probably the kind of thing that would happen in this kind of world, but I can see that being a little bit frustrating at times. Some people will definitely find this jarring compared to other open world games where fast travel is more free and easy to do right from the get-go. In fairness, I probably need to get further into the game to determine how much this does actually impact things, as my only experience is within the first 2 villages. And same, I guess, with my point about the quests from before. It is obviously a realistic thing, because if you take on a quest, characters aren't just going to stand around until you come for something to happen. If it's somebody who's being attacked by monsters, they're going to keep being attacked by monsters and they're going to die. It won't matter whether you're there or not. So I do see the logic behind it, and again, it is great attention to realism, but I can see that, it is both a good thing and also a bad thing at times. So, would I recommend Dragon's Dogma 2? I think it's definitely worth checking out. It's got some unique approaches to the RPG genre and a commitment to realism both to its strength and to its detriment. I'd say it won't be for everyone, and you know what? That's okay. The Dark Souls games that my channel's content mainly consist of are equally polarizing, and there's many people who don't like them because of the bold design choices they possess, very similar to Dragon's Dogma 2. If you like Dragon's Dogma 1, you're probably very familiar with a lot of what I've discussed today, and if you're a fan of that game, then I'm pretty sure you're going to be a fan of this one too. I still don't know why a dragon has a dog mother, but I'm going to play this game some more to hopefully find that out. Again, it's now available on PC, PlayStation and Xbox, and I've included a link in the description and the top comment. Thanks for watching, and thanks to Capcom again for sponsoring this video. Hit me up in the comments below if you'd be interested in seeing me tackle some Dragon's Dogma 2 challenge runs. I've been JK Leeds, see ya, and have a good one.
Can you
me, sir. Sir, stay with me.